The original homunculi from Fullmetal Alchemist.
Emperor Belos, the man-made monster from the Owl House.
From the shadows there are rulers, individuals who use others to pull strings on plans. What kind of a man are you if you do this? A fool? A coward? Perhaps a god? These two combatants play God to exterminate those below them. Only one of them can come out on top and obtain true power. Find out who wins in today's Doomsday Duel. Centuries ago, there was a town which managed to thrive above all others through a supernatural technique of deconstructing matter and reconstructing it into something else. Xerxes was its name, and it had a dark secret.
The town figured out how to make life. By studying this technique, an individual known as an alchemist used the blood of one of their slaves to create a small black creature in a bottle.
Known as the dwarf in the flask, the monster befriended the slave who created him. Given that he wasn't free from the flask, nor the slave free to live, they found common ground.
Being friends with the one-eyed thing had benefits. He taught the slave how to read, write, and perform alchemy. He even gave him a name. Hohenheim. This little thing grew restless and wanted out of the flask.
So a plan was set. The king of Xerxes wanted the secrets to immortality, and the dwarf in the flask could give it to him. By creating a transmutation circle, so drawing some bloodshed, the dwarf could activate a trap.
The transmutation circle killed everyone within the kingdom of Xerxes, their souls pulled out of their bodies, going towards the center, where the dwarf in Hohenheim stood. The dwarf used the power to reach the gate of truth, creating a new body for himself using the look of the slave.
As a thank you for all of his hard work, the dwarf split all the souls between the two of them. Functionally, Hohenheim was immortal. He would never grow old enough to die.
So Hohenheim was looking into the face of himself, with a creature who wasn't human, and also technically his son. I wouldn't want to be in that family tree. It's more like a family spiral.
The dwarf would prepare himself for the future. He would leave the city and go to a patch of land, one that was landlocked, building a kingdom where he could prepare for an event in the future. By splitting parts of himself into 7 distinct different emotions, he became the father of the city.
So Saul, what is alchemy?
Alchemy is complicated, to say the least. It follows 3 different main principles: analysis, deconstruction, and reconstruction. You have to understand and know what you're manipulating before being able to do so. It's knowing the elements of what you're destroying, and then breaking it down, before making it into something different. Take a rock, for example. If you understand how to break down the rock, then you can manipulate it into something else.
Alchemy is so specific that it goes down to the atomic level. Not only that, certain alchemists understand how to pause at the deconstruction process, leaving the element broken. The only limit with alchemy is that you have to make something of equal value, and it can't be a different type of substance. You can't turn a rock into ice.
The only way to bypass this is with a philosopher's stone. You can create something more powerful with fewer resources, allowing for more destructive combat. Since Father has over 500,000 souls inside of him, he can use alchemy to its fullest potential.
Father has shown incredible skill with his alchemy. He's able to create basic things like walls, rock animals, destroy things without moving, create sharp spikes, and more.
Other alchemists such as Hohenheim have created large stones out of rocks, made weapons. You get the gist of this. Although being a living philosopher's stone does come with some major benefits.
Most alchemists either have to clap their hands, draw circles, or do other different movements to perform alchemy. Father, however, just has to think for alchemy to happen.
While Father mainly performs deconstruction and reconstruction, there's no reason why he can't just deconstruct the very being. Deconstruction goes so far that it affects souls and your very existence. Father can do it to those who touch him, creating a dangerous barrier.
Father just can't die. Seriously, the regeneration of Father is incredible. You see, he's something known as a homunculus. Homunculus use the power of souls from their philosopher's stones to regenerate their bodies if they take too much damage.
For as long as Father has humans to use as energies within the stone, his physical form can be manipulated and regenerated. Some homunculi, like Lust, have come back from being burnt over and over and over again.
This does come with one fatal flaw: the fact that if you run out of souls, you stop regenerating. But with Father's amount of souls, you might imagine that hurting him in any way is tough. And if he is ever running out of souls, he can stick his hand inside of you and suck out souls through that.
Father would create the country of Amestris, created some of the largest militaries in the world. He promised multiple humans that, by working for him, you would gain an undead army.
But basing your body on one human causes a few issues. Father started to feel emotions, those things that most humans have. Instead of accepting his humanity, going to therapy, or anything that makes sense, he split his body into 7 deadly sins.
Much like the standard Christian teachings in the real world, the 7 deadly sins are as follows: pride, greed, wrath, envy, lust, gluttony, and sloth.
The whole reason why this guy's called Father in the first place is because of these children? Damn, they're all family, and technically Hohenheim's family. What?
Father doesn't hate humans, no, he just sees them as lesser than himself and his family. He never considers what a human is thinking or feeling. We're all insects to him.
Well, one of the strongest insects is Edward Elric, a state alchemist who attempted human transmutation. Talk about losing an arm and a leg! Heh, oh, his brother lost his entire body? Ooh.
Father and Edward would come into conflict with each other after a military officer was mysteriously killed by an unknown force. But not even the state alchemist can stand up to the might of Father.
Edward Elric is an impressive alchemist. Edward can create large ice structures, stone golems, and massive walls. He's even destroyed said walls at 2.2 kilotons apiece.
While Father hasn't shown much direct movement, he should be comparable to Wrath, who blitzed multiple officers and even deflected bullets.
He's also comparable to another one of his children, Pride. Pride was able to use his shadow to move across the city at Mach 25. That's as fast as the Spaceliner, a massive spacecraft.
Father is also comparable to other Philosopher's Stone users like Kimberly, who used one of these stones to destroy a town with 33.3 kilotons of TNT. This was during the Ishval genocide, a war Father had set up.
Father himself can create large shockwaves strong enough to part away clouds. Ed was at the center of this shockwave, and he could physically match Father. That's if Father didn't remove his alchemy.
Not like that would have mattered anyway. Not even Scar's deconstruction alchemy could kill Father. He resisted the effects, but Father was only trying to subdue the people around him. He even healed Edward's wounds.
You see, Father had a plan. On a very specific day when the moon would cross the sun in an eclipse, a large transmutation circle would activate. Oh, but True, wouldn't there have to be a circle? Well, there was. The one Father built around the entire city.
By linking up multiple tunnels and laboratories, Father would recreate the event in Xerxes with 50 million souls and a few human sacrifices. By using the bodies of those who have met truth, a process which required similar human transmutation, Father could meet God.
But Father forgot our human right to kick ass. Edward, his brother, Hohenheim, Scar, and everyone who had been wronged by Father came to beat him up. Wait, Hohenheim's back?
Yeah, you see, Hohenheim never gave up with stopping Father. Even though he settled down and had a family, Hohenheim figured out the transmutation circle and left to try and fix it. But after all these years, he came back to help his son.
Oh! See, if I was a redneck with a shotgun for a leg, I'd be pretty happy right now.
He didn't need the body of Hohenheim anymore. Father had evolved. This form can absorb attacks, alter their size, and throw them back. Create a handgun, wrap people up and absorb them, or just zap people on contact.
Yeah, that right to kick ass didn't hold up, as Father activated his circle. He used his power to grow unbelievably large, reach out, grab God out of the sky. What? He then absorbed all 50 million souls within the city. Saul, how fast would Father have to be moving to do that?
At least over Mach 1000 to reach up and react to those hands. Anyway, Hohenheim had a plan. Knowing about this transmutation circle, he set up his own counter-circle with the souls inside of him, bringing everyone back to life. But it didn't really matter to Father.
When you're a perfect being who can just suck the souls out of individuals as long as you aren't interrupted, and you can just create stones, yeah, it doesn't really matter if they get brought back to life, does it?
Father had become the perfect being, the next step in human evolution. The only thing left to do was to destroy every single human who stood in his way, the entire country, and then the world.
You could bypass all the rules of alchemy, conjuring something out of nothing, like a sun, passive barriers, absorption, large laser beams, tornadoes. What could you do against God?
He even released the souls of Xerxes to torture the mind of Hohenheim, his mistakes, his failures. God was in front of him.
However, there was one tiny thing that Father did get wrong. He forgot about humanity. The humans began to overwhelm his shield around his body, a literal war of attrition, with his rebellious teenage son Greed even helping. Eventually, that shield, alongside Father, broke.
Father spent his last moments begging and screaming. He only wanted to learn what the world could do. what it could have, to become this ultimate being, Father returned to what he was. Nothing.
Father had a confrontation with God. He asked why it didn't fuse with him. The answer? Father was kind of a dick. Hey kids, next time you want to be God, make sure you're a good person.
The dwarf in the flask was grabbed and pulled into the abyss. No more could he hurt or threaten humanity again. He was beaten by those he underestimated, a rather fitting end to a creature created by man.
Are you tired of everyone thinking you're weird? Are you constantly worn down by the expectations of our society? Do you want to just be different?
Then you need to take a trip through the magic door and come to the Boiling Isles.
Built on the corpse of a mystical titan, the Boiling Isles holds many iconic locations.
The beautiful fauna of the Isles, the quaint town of Bonesborough, the Confrontatorium, and even the mysterious Owl House.
This amazing society is held together by the wondrous gift of Titan magic, a parting gift from the glorious Titan who once roamed this realm.
However, Titan magic can also be a source of destruction, which is why wild Titan magic is banned. If you want to be a practitioner of magic under the Titan's power, you need to join a coven.
A coven is the categorization of magic that you specialize in, and is the only kind of magic you can use. Whether you choose to study the use of plants, abominations, construction, healing, illusions, beastkeeping, bard, oracle, that one's pretty good. Potions, that's just science. Regardless, it's up to you.
There is, however, one coven that can use all the Titan's magic at once, this being the Emperor's Coven.
Joining the Emperor's Coven means you get to serve directly under the ruler of the Boiling Isles, Emperor Belos.
From the Emperor's Palace, Belos governs over the Boiling Isles with an iron fist, imposing the will of the Titan over his subjects.
You heard that right. Belos can talk to the Titan directly and acts as a connection between the witches and the Titan. It allows for the Titan's words to ring out across the Boiling Isles.
The Titan is actually what told Belos to make the Coven system in the first place, saying that the witches were misusing their magic and that only a select few could harness its full power, which Belos proved as cities were burnt down and villages turned to ash under the era of wild magic.
This Titan whispering made the witches respect Belos, and they quickly made him their emperor.
As Emperor Belos would appoint only the strongest magic users to join his coven and control the Boiling Isles, promising witches like Lilith Clawthorn, his nephew Hunter, and Kikimora, I guess.
All of Belos' work would come together under the Day of Unity, with cooperation from the witching world and a bit of help from an imprisoned god called the Collector. Those who were worthy would be brought into paradise.
Unfortunately for everyone on the Isles, this would be one large trap. The Day of Unity was actually a large spell that would drain the magic out of every witch on the Isles.
And Belos would have gotten away with it if it wasn't for those meddling kids. Thanks to Luz Noseda and her friends, the Collector was freed and Belos was flicked into goop for breaking his deal with him.
But why did Belos do this? Why was the kind Emperor attempting to genocide his own people? Why is he goop?
Great question, Saul. You see, Belos is, or was, not actually a witch, but a human.
Ah, he fooled me. Well, Belos is so adept at magic, he may as well be an honorary witch.
I don't think he would want that. But Belos is a very powerful mage despite not having the ability to naturally perform magic.
His artificial magic allows him to fire energy beams, create smoke, or turn you into stone.
Along with staff magic, Belos has a few other magical tricks he can pull from. Summoning flesh tendrils, monsters, creating spikes from the ground, telekinesis, telepathy, and even teleportation.
He can even harness some of the Isle's natural magic through glyphs, inscriptions that harness a magical power through drawings. Belos should reasonably know every glyph and every combination of glyphs, giving him the full range of this powerful magical method.
Glyphs allow Belos to create fire, ice, light, plants, water, wind, mist, go invisible, and even hover. Whee!
And of course, as the more skilled magic user on the Isles, Belos should be able to pull from all the magic used in the Coven system.
And magic is no joke. He should scale to the power of other magic users like Luz, who can create large ice walls worth 7.3 kilotons of TNT.
Belos' magic should also be more powerful than the Green Thumb Gauntlet, a magical artifact that can create incredibly large trees worth 11.13 megatons of TNT. He should also scale to King, who could destroy the Titan Finger, which is capable of parting clouds.
Belos' magic is so powerful, he couldn't even have it sucked out of him by V the Basilisk, whose main ability is to suck out others' magic.
This power also comes with blinding speed behind it, as Belos scales to Lilith, who could block Luz using a light glyph, which is, well, light. Anyway, True, care to finish answering my question?
Oh, right. Oh yeah, Belos was a human at one point. Instead of being emperor, he lived as Philip Widobane.
Both Philip and his brother Caleb lived in Gracefield as orphans. The two brothers would take up witch hunting until Caleb met a witch named Evelyn, who took Caleb into the demon realm.
Yeah, Philip wasn't a big fan of this betrayal, especially when the inhabitants of the Boiling Isles weren't fans of humans. So, he did the rational move of killing his witch-loving brother and plotting the death of all witches. Oh, and do you remember Hunter? He's actually a clone of Caleb and comes from a long line of clones that Belos tricks into helping him complete his plans. Jesus, man!
Unfortunately for Philip, he didn't quite have the resources needed to cause a mass genocide. He had a lead with the Collector, who knew the draining spell, but he could never reach the Collector without collecting all the glyphs.
This problem was then solved by Luz, when she traveled back in time and accidentally helped Philip collect the last glyph needed to summon the Collector, who gave Belos the recipe to the draining spell.
But how did Belos even live long enough to enact this plan, you might ask? Well, simple. He absorbed the souls of Palisman, small creatures who power the staff used by witches.
Unfortunately for Belos, the souls of the Palisman aren't the easiest to control, hence why Belos' true form is a giant goop monster.
And while being a goop monster allows Belos to be physically strong enough to throw Luz and her friends around like nothing, this form cannot last forever without being satiated.
So Belos learned how to possess people. In this horrifying process, Belos forcefully takes over someone and controls their body. He's done this to the Bard Rain, Hunter, and even the Titan's corpse.
Yeah, so, Belos became an entire island just to eradicate witches. That is some next level hating.
This form allows Belos to control the large body of the Titan for an immense power boost. It also allows him to fire lasers and spread a weird moss that envelops its target until they die.
Just moving the body parts of the Titan can get anywhere between 10 to 19 teratons of TNT.
10 Belos should also scale the Collector, who can move the moon just by moving his finger. This gets between 457 yotatons of TNT to a whopping 12.29 ronatons of TNT.
Yet, despite all of this power, Belos was defeated by Luz, using the power of the Titan herself, a fitting end for someone who devoted their life to the Titan.
While Belos had to forcefully take the Titan's power, Luz was granted it by Aaron Hansen himself. Just goes to show good things come to those with a pure heart.
Ironic in how, by protecting humanity, Philip lost his.
All that was left of Belos in his final moments was a puddle, stomped out by the witches and outcasts he tried so desperately to destroy.
We open within the depths of Amestris, deep below the natural land of the city. We travel past many intertwining pipes and small rodents running across them. We stop in an open room, a stone throne and a man sitting on it. He rests his fist against his face, watching the door. We watch as it opens, 7 individuals walking in, all of varying shapes and sizes.
It's not long until the promised day. The sacrifices are all in place. There isn't much to do, my children.
He looks around the 7 sins in front of him, before a large rumble shakes the room. What the hell was that? Greed questions, another rumble interrupting his thoughts. The ground continues to tremble and shake as pieces of rock and rubble begin to fall.
Go forth, my children. Do not allow anyone to disturb the promised day.
All 7 of the sins ran out the room, the large door shutting. Then it explodes. Multiple individuals in bird-like masks run in, and as the dust settles, a towering figure walks over the rubble and enters the room, holding a staff close to his body, a yellow mask covering where a face should be.
I hope I'm not interrupting. I had to kill some of your pets on the way down. You should employ some better guards. They're all too easy to destroy.
You enter my home and kill my chimeras.
Father stands from his chair, although seemingly not fazed by the figure in front of him.
What is it that you would want?
Along my travels, I've heard of an object that gives you great power at a heavy cost. A philosopher's stone. This artifact would prove very useful to me. So you should hand it over for the Titan.
You believe in something that could overthrow gods. I'm afraid I cannot let you interfere with my plans. The likes of you do not deserve this power.
Although his mask hides it, there is an underlying smirk on Belos' face as he relishes the challenge.
An artifact made by a witch should only be used by those with enough knowledge of what harm it can do.
And you believe that you have enough knowledge to use the stone?
Red sparks begin to appear from Father's body. causing some of the guards to step back, but not Belos.
If you survive this, I might make you a homunculus.
I'll tear that stone from your hands if I have to.
The pipes around the room begin to bend and contort. A group of them shoot towards Belos and his coven guards. The guards, unsuccessfully, attempt to create a spell to protect themselves. Belos, however, fires an energy beam, dispelling any pipes. Father counters this with a sudden stone wall.
No circles or glyphs. That artifact must be powerful.
Belos charged up an energy beam within his staff, conjuring a blast which engulfed the room they were in. Father created another, massively durable wall of metal and stone to block it, before sending it to crush Belos. The witch hunter blasted a hole through the body, the remnants of it forming a giant fist, knocking Belos into the air. He slammed against the roof of Father's home before falling back down. Large walls began to build around Belos, closing in and crushing him. Father looked unimpressed, assuming victory was his.
Careful. I could have died.
Emperor Belos had teleported behind Father, now towering over the man. He used his staff to blast into the back of him, sending him flying across the room. A sudden ramp being built to stop himself. He brushed himself off, not a wound on his body.
Alchemy, contained within a staff. You lack a stone, but manage to do alchemy without a single movement. No. You're not destroying or creating matter. Answer me, Alchemist. How do you do such a thing?
Alchemy. So you're interested in my magic, is that it? That would make sense. You don't look like a witch.
A large stone dragon came flying towards Belos. In retaliation, a pale worm appeared, attempting to bite the other. The strong monster dove straight into the mouth of the worm, bursting through its stomach. Belos was quickly snapped into its mouth, quickly activating his teleportation to reappear behind Father, but he had predicted this, sinking into the ground, gripping Belos' leg and pulling him down with him.
Unhand me!
Belos' arm began to mutate and glow, before plant vines shot upwards, breaking himself free, and also wrapping around Father. The vines quickly were broken down by deconstruction alchemy, only large thorns left into their place, shooting at Belos. The witch hunter attempted to reflect them, but the sheer number allowed for one to get past, hitting his mask. It cracked one of the eyepieces open, his glowing blue eye revealed. Now fueled by rage, Belos used his telekinesis to throw Father into the air, dropping him back down to the ground. Father used the opportunity to use his alchemy, deconstructing the nearby walls to form a drill. The device shot down towards Belos, causing his telekinesis to change targets, stopping the drill. As Father fell, he pushed his hands against the drill, deconstructing it back into rocks. He then used the pipes that Belos was standing on to stab through one of his legs, causing Emperor Belos to scream with rage. Father landed in front of Belos and looked at him.
Caught you.
Multiple flesh tendrils expanded from the ground, a trap that Belos had laid. They all attempted to grab and pull at Father, the homunculus doing his best to deconstruct or break them, but they were never ending. Father created more and more walls in an attempt to block them off until one large one gripped his arm.
I don't care if you're human. If you're brainwashed by those witches, I can't do anything more for you. I'll make sure to tear you piece by piece.
With one powerful pull, Father's arm was snapped clean off, causing blood to drip onto the floor. Belos' face turned from one of joyous triumph to utter despair as the limb suddenly grew back.
How? Not even the healing coven could...
Belos was cut off as a stone fist hit his face. Father had managed to disarm him, catching the staff, admiring it.
No circles, no markings, nothing. Tell me, what do you use to cast all of these abilities?
Belos was unresponsive, his arm pulsating in pain as a large fireball shot out of it. Father dropped the staff and used a simple wall to block it, Belos telekinetically pulling the weapon back to him and standing up. His arm began to break out from the pain, exploding into a massive green goop before reforming itself back into a regular hand. Father then used the remaining bits of metal, stone and rubble to form one giant gaping hand. Belos attempted to step back from the hand, but another transmutation had mini hands shoot out of that one. They gripped and pulled at Belos, managing to get a good grasp at his mask, pulling it off, revealing the Emperor's face.
What a shame. I had thought that you were more than a human.
Oh, don't you worry. I'll show you what us humans can do.
Belos' arm morphed into a large green fist, breaking through and pulverizing the larger hand that was grabbing him. Father tried to stop the momentum, Belos' fist breaking through his attempts to block the attack. His arm wrapped around Father, pulling him in close. The glyphs on Belos' arm visibly began to glow. the petrification spell beginning to overtake Father's body. His feet began to turn to stone, the spell slowly crawling up his body. Father looked around, slowly running out of options, conjuring a spike from the ground. It raised and grazed past Belos' face, but instead of blood or pain, Belos' grip only tightened. His face was green, his eyes sunken and blue.
You look human. You feel human. But you're pretending. I didn't know there was such a species out there that would attempt to mimic the way we looked. It would make sense. Humanity is the only pure species out there.
Unhand me, you pathetic worm!
Father had pushed his hands towards Belos, but it was too late. His hand had turned to stone right there before he could. It was followed on by his body, which Belos had dropped, shattering the remains.
We're not mimicking, you pathetic beings.
Belos turned towards the voice, noticing a large black figure with eyes covering its body staring at him. Frankly, the witch hunter was horrified. It didn't help that thing had a weapon pointed at him.
We're the next step in evolution.
Within a flash, the bullet crashed into the head of Belos, sending him stumbling forward in pain. His body began to fight against the wound, but Father didn't stop shooting, more bullets crashing into him. Belos turned around and shot a fireball at Father, the flames crashing into an invisible barrier.
You disgusting wretch! You will die by my hands!
Belos couldn't hold it back anymore. His body was screaming, tearing itself apart. He fell to the ground and formed into a massive monster, screaming faces of all the palisman he consumed sticking out.
Interesting. Like a philosopher's stone, it seems those screaming faces are an energy source to you.
Belos let out a blood-curdling scream before running at Father. He scraped away at him, who by using his alchemy was interrupting every attack.
Humans turn to emotion so quickly.
Father commented, unfazed by the creature in front of him. Bits of Belos was now dropping off of his body. The sound of Belos attempting to break through the alchemy rang across the destroyed room. Father looked at his stone throne, still intact.
But yet, you haven't stopped my plans as much as you would hope.
Father ducked off to the side and released a few more bullets into Belos' body. The witch hunter formed a scythe out of his hand and sliced it towards Father, who was dodging backwards. A few more bullets went towards Belos, who was slicing through them, his blade hitting Father's body. He regenerated from it, smiling, as Belos brought his scythe down towards Father.
I'll make sure that you end up nothing more than dirt.
The two forms spiraled around each other. Belos attempted to grab and pull at Father's form. Father let Belos grab him, but began to suck the monster in. Belos attempted to pull back, his legs being sucked into the body, screaming. He shapeshifted his arm into an axe before chopping himself in half.
And what is this? The man is crawling away? I thought you were going to kill me. Go on then.
Oh, shut up!
Belos responded, hatred in his lungs. He crawled, pulled himself, and used his decaying limbs to try and move. But Father's focus wasn't on Belos. It was on the sky, which he could now see thanks to the broken roof.
The time has come for the promised day. All the sacrifices are here. All are ready. Do what you want now.
Within a moment, Father was sitting on his chair, all 5 sacrifices appearing in the room. The transmutation circle activated, and every single person in the Amestris had their souls sucked out, and the 5 sacrifice bodies activated. Father temporarily became massive and reached out towards the moon, where God was. Belos, while all of this was happening, began to draw a circle around the chamber. He didn't care what he had to use, even as his hand snapped off midway through it. He just used his flesh, but as he looked back at Father, he was sitting in the chair.
What are you doing? Your form is decaying, monster. I have achieved God. You truly expect that you could fight me now?
You think you've become a god? No, you haven't. You simply believe that whatever power you've obtained is God. But I've been chosen by higher powers to rid this world of monsters like you. I will not simply stop here because one of you claims to be a god.
Belos activated the circle, teleporting both away. Father came to within the throne room of Emperor Belos, now inside the Boiling Isles. He looked around, his eyes filled with curiosity. A circle that teleported? Father must have this power. Belos had managed to, within that confusion, drag his body towards the heart of the Titan.
I'll show you a true god's power!
Belos inserted himself within the heart of the Titan. The entire isle started to crack and rumble, shaking with power. Father was blasted away by the huge shockwave, causing the entire building to cave in. Creatures of all different sizes, colours and builds ran past Father in fear. He looked at them in confusion, before pulling their souls out into a mini storm. What he had failed to notice is the large dragon in front of him, but he was not fazed by it. Actually, he was hoping for a challenge.
You would call this God? You've turned yourself into a monster, the very core of what you hate. Admit it, you're more like us than anything.
Belos' roar echoed across the boiling isles, swinging his large hand down to destroy Father. He swiped, cutting down an entire forest behind Father, but making no damage to Homunculus. Belos brought up both of his hands before slamming them down, sending another shockwave out, knocking over and killing nearby witches. But Father, unharmed. He smirked before firing an energy beam towards Belos. The Witch Hunter blocked the blow before releasing his blast, a scorching blue beam of pure energy which crashed into the ground, breaking up the land of the boiling isles. Father felt water below him. The beam from Belos had destroyed so much of the Titan that the boiling sea was rolling in, but it didn't faze him. The rot of Emperor Belos was beginning to creep its way through the isles. A mixture of screaming faces, green balls of pus, and blue eyes crawled towards Father. He charged one large beam to blow the faces up, destroying the ground next to him. Father jumped back out of the crater as more of the rot crept up to him. With one wave of his finger, a sudden tornado appeared, sucking up the rot near him. Belos unleashed another beam towards Father, getting blocked by his barrier. Or at least, that's what Belos believed. Father had absorbed the beam and redirected the blast right back at him.
Don't you see that I am God now? I have the power to create and shape whatever I want. You don't have that power, human. You can only fake it.
Father walked towards Titan Belos, the continual slams and punches of the beast not being able to get past the barrier, the horrible faces of Belos' rot slamming into the barrier. Father stuck his hand out and began to absorb the soul of Belos, the monster roaring in anger as it swiped down, breaking Father's concentration. He jumped backwards, speaking a few words.
You will return, from nothing to nothing, as God commands.
Belos put all of his energy into one heavy, sustained beam. Father crossed his hands as the blast hit the barrier, his feet forcefully digging into the dirt of the boiling isles. Father could feel the souls from within him screaming to be released. Father took the Philosopher's Stone made from the residents of the Boiling Isles and released their souls, their bodies crawling towards Belos. The eye in the chest looked down at him.
Save us, Emperor! Help us!
Shut up! All of you shut up! My will is to purge this perdition! My will is to...
Belos' rant was interrupted by a glowing orange light. Standing below him was Father, holding the sun in the palm of his hands. It was small, but that simple act sent fear into Emperor Belos' body.
Humans are nothing more than a battery source to be used. You can't hear them, Emperor, but they call to me. Each one of them begging for death. That's all you humans are, cogs in the wheel of future evolution. Now look upon your god.
Father crushed the sun in between his two hands before beginning to rapidly expand the size of it. Using all the souls within his body, he created a sun large enough to match the hulking size of the Emperor. With one simple hand wave, the sun began to rapidly move towards Belos. The Emperor put his hands out, firing a large beam, attempting to stop the sun from engulfing him. Father watched on with a large smirk. He was enjoying this, enjoying the struggle of humanity. He could feel it all. Belos' hands began to singe and burn away at the large sun. He used all the molds within his body to attempt to fight back. The body of the Titan started to shake and rumble, the hand of it reaching out to move the sun. It only managed to move it to the side. Belos' beam pierced in through the sun, grazing Father's shoulder. A white light engulfed Emperor Belos as he screamed in pain. And miraculously, only half of Belos' Titan form was burnt off. Father could now see into the heart of the beast, where Belos' true form is attached. Half of his body is singed off. His face practically has his decaying skull visible, but he is still breathing, still alive.
Even after I would throw an entire sun at you, you would still stand in the face of God. No matter. We can do it again.
but I don't think you can.
Belos spoke, the mold growing over Father's hand. His eyes widened in fear and surprise.
But your beam didn't even touch me. It just...
Father realized it had grazed him.
You know, it's funny. I thought I needed your stone, but I don't. You're weak enough even with the power of the god you claim to have. Now die, monster. Die and be purged from this land.
Father moved towards the Titan, outstretching his hand, attempting to grasp at the creature. His arm fell apart before he could even grab onto the foot. Father's body was overtaken by the mold, broken down, and turned into nothingness. The souls all inside of Father released in a sudden burst of energy, all now freed from their confines. And Belos, he looked on with joy, ready to purge the world.
Never do that long of a fight again. No matter how cool you think it will be, it's not worth it.
Alright. How about we make this simple? We break the verdict down into two major categories, base and God versus Titan.
Let's start with base stats. It should be no surprise that Father is stronger. Given the soul-to-energy conversion of Fullmetal Alchemist, Hohenheim powering the transmutation circle should be more powerful than anything Belos has.
You see, that circle is worth 5 pentatons as TNT. Even calculating King shattering the thumb, which would get 3 kilotons, Father would be leagues stronger.
But it isn't all about strength. Speed matters. At its best, Father could scale to himself pulling God out of the sky, an impressive Mach 1508.
But that's not that impressive when you consider Lilith blocking the light blasts. Blocking one of these would be relativistic speeds.
Combine that with Belos' teleportation and telekinesis, Father would have a tough time attempting to get close.
Not to say that Father didn't have wing cons. His 1,000 of souls meant that Belos would struggle to put him down, and if Father got close, he could absorb the souls out of Belos or just deconstruct his body.
You might think that since Belos has all of those souls inside of him, they might be toxic to Father and kill him. Yeah, that isn't the case. Even if it was, Father could regenerate any damage back.
And while Belos can regenerate from dangerous attacks and even possess people, that wouldn't matter to Father. His regeneration is outclassed and his possession takes time to truly work.
Hey, wait a minute. Aren't we supposed to be arguing a Belos win?
We are! Belos is still faster, which means he's able to avoid many dangerous close-range wing cons. Belos also has one technique we failed to mention: petrification.
Turning Father to stone is a viable win con. The speed of petrification is a common debate here, but take Ida. Half her body in her owl beast form was turned to stone in a relatively short amount of time.
While Father could remove the stone pieces from himself, he would need to expend resources to do so, which Belos could capitalize on with even more petrification. It would also be terrible if Belos hit a petrification on Father's stone, completely killing the homunculus.
So base is actually pretty debatable. Huh? That's pretty neat.
But God vs. Titan is a completely different story, and where the advantages begin to pour onto Belos.
Belos is far more powerful in this form. Scaling him to the Collector would give him 12.3 Ronatons of TNT in strength, or similar powers to scaling him to Titanlose.
Godfather does come with a few unique abilities. He can remove the soul from range, create a passive barrier around him, and still deconstruct on contact.
But Belos had a major advantage. Moss. No, we're not kidding. What seems like a pile of disgusting goop is the key to Belos winning.
The moss could continually spread, making sure Father had to focus on defending himself, which we know could interrupt his soul sucking. And if that moss attached to Father,
he would die and release all of his souls. Remember, a single drop of this managed to destroy all of Luz's body and even threaten the Collectors.
While this verdict might seem surprising to some watching, this debate is far closer than we're giving credit to. But through Belos' keep away, powerful moss, and pure hatred for everyone, he pulled out the win.
The winner is Emperor Belos.
Hi guys, Saul here. I hope you guys enjoyed the episode. I'm currently recording this as I record the verdict for the episode, so hopefully you're actually hearing this and I didn't give up halfway. I just want to thank a couple of people before we get into the next time trailer, so yeah, do stick around, or maybe skip ahead if you don't want to hear all of this. But thank you to Hattie Hatman, who is the kind of artist for Doomsday Duel. They created a lot of the preview images, the ones for the previews of the analysis, They were made by them. You should go check out their content. They're amazing. Thank you to friends like Pin and Parkin and all that who have really hyped me up during this and really supported me. It's been a hell of a process making this, and we've gone through a lot of struggles to get here. And thank you to True for just coming along to this project. I literally DM'd him and I was like, I have an idea for a vision show. Do you want to join? And he was like, yeah, I'll join. So, and thank you to like everybody who has either watched this video or just been supporting me through this year and the process. Hopefully this will come out before next year, otherwise this is going to seem like a random tangent. We hope that you guys enjoy the next time.